This is In the Trenches, broadcast 54.
Welcome to In the Trenches, where entrepreneurs, artists, writers, designers, inventors, warriors, and leaders share their stories of doing the hard, creative work that impacts all of our lives. Let the journey inspire you to do something worthwhile, build something bold, and create your life's work. And now, your host, Tom Morkis.
Welcome back, everyone, to another broadcast of In the Trenches. Today's guest is MP McDougall, a published author and also one of the contributors to the magazine known as Bootstrapped, which I am affiliated with and I do publish, so I'm a little biased. And instead of just calling him MP, I'm just going to call him Mike. So, Mike, how's it going?
It's going great, Tom. Thanks.
Hey, thanks for being on the call with us today. I'm excited to hear a little bit about your story and your background and your writing in particular. So why don't you go ahead and take it away and let people know a little bit about yourself and kind of in a lead up to what you're working on today, which is the book we were discussing right before we hit record.
Okay, we were talking offline a little bit earlier. I've been kind of an aspiring writer my whole life. Ever since I learned to read, I've always wanted to write. I enjoy writing. I like putting thoughts down in written form because it seems like I have a better knack for communicating a thought on the page than I do verbally. I seem to be able to get my thoughts out better on the page, and I can communicate better, speak to people better through writing. So I've always had this thing in the back of my brain that, I'd really like to write a book, and that's kind of this cliche American thing where, everybody wants to write a book. Never really pursued it. I've spent the last 23 years in a career that doesn't have a whole lot to do with writing. I'm an air traffic controller. I was in the military. I was in the Air Force for almost 9.5 years between active duty and guard. Went overseas, did some things, in the military, had a good time, met a lot of good friends and stuff, but I was still never really pursuing what I wanted to do, what I really enjoy doing, which is writing. So when I got out of the military, I used my GI Bill to go back to school, and I was thinking, I've already got a good job. It's not like I was going to quit my job as an air traffic controller and go do something else. But I had paid into the GI Bill, and I didn't want to lose that potential education benefit. So I started looking around at education programs that I could do for something that just was something for me that I would enjoy doing. I've always loved history of all types, and specifically military history. So I went back to school. I got a degree in military history, and through pursuing that degree, my love of writing kind of woke back up again. And so I started a blog. I've done some history writing, but mostly what my blog is, it's just kind of random thoughts that I tend to put out there. I like to, debate. I enjoy asking questions and trying to get down to the nitty gritty about how, what do people think about how they live and how they work and stuff like that. I also really enjoy humor writing. So what I'm working on right now is I'm writing a sort of a self. It's sort of like an autobiography. It's a satirical humor autobiography. Basically, my misadventures as a little kid. I'm the youngest of 12 kids. We grew up Catholic family, and we had basically, by today's standards, we were hicks. we were just. We did a lot of weird stuff that people today would look at and just be horrified, and we look back and think it was funny. And
what's an example from one of the parts that's going to be in the story?
We had cows when I was a kid, and we had these. We would have one or two cows at a time, and we'd raise them for beef for the family to eat, and we'd name the cows, and they'd be part of the family. But then when it came time to butcher the cows, we'd call the butcher. It turned into a spectator sport. You'd have all these little kids lined up on the fence, and we're like, oh boy, they're going to do this cow in. You know, most little kids today, they would look at, oh, they're going to kill our pet. And we thought, hey, lunch. And it's kind of this ghoulish, but it was mostly out of a sense of survival. So, we had some misadventures with just, growing up on kind of a suburban farm type thing. So if you've ever read Patrick F. McManus, he's an outdoor humor writer. It's the writings along the lines of that, basically kind of self-deprecating, pokes fun at himself. That's the style this book is. So this book that I'm writing right now, it's going to be released on October 30th on Amazon. It's called Jet Screamer, which is my sibling's nickname for me when I was a little kid, because I used to scream pretty loud when I was annoyed. So Jet Screamer is the first issue, or the first in the trilogy. There's going to be 2 more books released next year. The second one's called Meat Sandwiches, and the third one is called How to Steer Your Kid. And those all refer to different episodes in my life, or in the lives of my siblings growing up. I also have another book in the works that's basically, it's a sort of a religious fantasy thriller. It doesn't really fit into a genre, and I'm only about a third of the way, maybe a quarter of the way done with the initial writing on that. So that one's going to be a ways out. But for right now, I'm focusing on this trilogy and releasing the first part of that at the end of this month.
Awesome. So definitely link that up in the show notes when this goes live, so make sure people get over to it and check it out.
Good deal.
But as far as that's concerned, tell me why that book versus any other? What inspired, I guess, that one, as opposed to, I suppose, any other type of book to start with? It seems like an odd choice, but I mean, also maybe not. Maybe it was because your family or whatever. But I'd be interested to know why that story in particular was the impetus for you to start writing and publishing.
Yeah, that mostly because it was a lot of these stories. Several of my brothers enjoy writing also, and it kind of spawned off of some emails that we'd sent back and forth years ago. They were sending emails back and forth to each other, and hey, remember the time that we did this, and then we would just laugh. I mean, I'd find myself in tears reading these emails, and like, man, this is hilarious. And get to talking to my brothers, and they were saying, and some of my sisters were saying, they read these email strings, and they said, man, you guys ought to put these into a book. It's hilarious stuff. And so we kind of, I kind of dabbled in it, a little bit, and I'd write down one story, like each chapter is, they run around 2,500 to 3,500 words, which is, it's 5 or 6 pages typed. And so I'd write down, a chapter or something. I'd show it to somebody, and they'd get a laugh out of it. I thought, that's kind of cool. And then I'd forget about it. Well, I was in my day job. I was kind of getting dissatisfied with, my career was starting to get kind of stale. I'd been doing it for several decades. It was a cool job, but starting to wear thin, and basically living not where I wanted to live, because that was where the job took me. And starting to feel like I was losing my my freedom and my control over where I put my family to raise them, and where I was choosing to live. And so I started thinking about all these things, and realized, why don't I pursue something that I really love? And I may never make a single penny off of it, but at least I would be able to have that satisfaction of creating something that was uniquely mine. And at the same time, I can entertain my siblings with it, and if they're the only ones that ever get a laugh out of it, then so be it. But, I think that this type of story, the dirty little kid that goes out and plays in mud pies, I think a lot of people can kind of relate to that sort of thing. So it just, why specifically this story was because I'd already had part of them written. So I basically could edit some of them and complete them, polish it up. I could take, because there are so many stories, I could take 10 or 12 of them and make a book out of it pretty quickly. And then the other ones that I haven't finished yet, I can add those later. So it can be a follow-on series. So it gives people something to look forward to. The novel that I'm working on, that's all creating from nothing, basically. And so I don't have anything to go on. I have to, work on this book. I have to pull it all out of my brain, from scratch. So it's harder to get, say 100,000 word novel off the ground than it is to just get a quicker 25,000 word little memoir off the ground. And the little memoirs, I can get the trilogy out, and each individual episode in that trilogy can add to, hopefully add to the people who hear about it and enjoy it, and then hopefully develop a following through that.
Tell me about the process you go through on a daily basis when you write, and specifically, like you mentioned, that the novel is a bit harder. Can you take me through that? Like, what is that like on a daily basis?
I'm just starting to get back into it. Like we mentioned offline, that we just moved house. We moved from one state to another, and I had last year on my blog, I chronicled how I was forcing myself to write every day. I'd sit down every day and just write, and just so I would publish something to the blog every single day. And it was a challenge I got from John Muldoon. He has a website called Monthly Experiments, where he would try a new experiment every month for 30 days to see if he could learn something new or try something new. So my experiment was writing every day, and so I got into the habit of that, and found out that if I just sit down and decide, this is my time, this is my half hour where I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna shoot for 250 words. That's all I want to get is 250, and then I'd find myself, I'd type away. Once I started my fingers moving, I'd look down and see that, wow, I've already gone through 500 words. This is great. And so my output increased when I made it a habit. So like I said, we just moved. So now I'm trying to get back into that habit, because obviously if you ever moved, it's chaotic, and, we have kids, and it's kind of hard to get everybody back into their routine. Now that we're settled, I'm starting to get back into the routine, and I'm forcing myself to write. And that the Just Ship It challenge on Fizzle that I'm a part of, which is why the book is coming out in such short notice at the end of this month. It's ship something, make something in 30 days. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the goal is that you get it out the door. And that's really motivated me to, hey man, I've been working on this thing for years and never got it out the door. And so now I've got myself down the last couple of days where I told myself I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write 1,000 words. And in the last 2 days together, I put out 3,000. And to get to my goal of 25,000 for this particular issue of the trilogy, or episode of the trilogy, I want to get the writing done by the 21st. So I have to do a little bit more than 700 words a day. And the last 2 days I did 15. I did double that, 1,500 a day. So yeah, if I can make it a habit to sit down and write, then it makes the end goal come quicker. So I'm really trying to force myself to get back into that habit. And I don't really I haven't been doing it early in the morning, which is usually a more productive time for me, but that's just because of my work schedule. So what I've been doing is I come home from work and sit down and get into writing and go until I get 1,000, and then I'm done. So.
Yeah. So now, as far as you're concerned then with this, it sounds like it's obviously certainly a hobby, something you're passionate about, but do you perceive that this could be something that you could actually make into something that's sustainable in terms of income or create a living doing it?
I think I could, and I think that the reason that is because of the advent of Kindle Direct Publishing on Amazon. Basically, anybody that wants to publish a book, it's really not all that difficult. The hardest part is in writing it. They've made it so easy to publish a book that just about anybody can do it if you want to put out the work to do it. The downside of that is just about anybody who wants to can publish a book. So you get a lot of people publishing books, and there's a lot of chaff to weed through to find something good. And I'm an avid reader, and I think when you look into the habits of writers, most writers are voracious readers, and that's me. I'll read just about anything, and my wife is the same way. And we found ourselves, we go to the library and try to look for a decent book to read. And what really strikes me is how much garbage gets printed and how much really bad writing gets published. It's really frustrating for me because I really appreciate good writing. if you've ever read a really well written book, it takes you in and puts you in that world, especially if it's a novel or something like that. You kind of, it paints a picture in your brain. Whereas something that's really poorly written, it may paint half that picture, and you're just starting to get into it, and then something totally incongruous happens that doesn't fit, and you're thinking, why? What is the purpose of that? So I think one of the things I'm passionate about is good writing. I think that um, it's kind of a dying form. I think that because of this flood of easy publishing, it attracts more people who don't have quite the ability to put out the quality. So it's good and bad, But I'm hoping that this could be something sustainable. And like I said, even if it isn't, then at least I have something that I can do. I can do it for my friends and family, and hopefully, there's a few people who are starting to follow my blog now. I can do it for them if they're looking for something good to read, something engaging with a good storyline and believable characters. Then I've done my job, especially if I've made somebody laugh along the way.
What excites you most when it comes to publishing, not just this one, but future books as well?
The idea, I'm a real, I don't know, I've always had a really kind of a wild imagination. And I remember when I was little, my oldest brother is about 17 years older than me. And so when I was really small, I remember he was in college, and he would read books to me at night. And he read me The Hobbit when I was probably 4. And I was amazed at this. He's telling me about dragons and elves and dwarves, and I'm just going, wow, this is ridiculous. And I think that experience really, it really planted the seeds for my imagination. So now I really get into story. If there's a really engaging story and a really believable story, it fascinates me. So what excites me about, moving into, moving beyond, say, this humor trilogy, I would love to be able to put out a novel, whether it's fantasy or science fiction or some other genre, that would really engage people. That when they read it, that they could just completely immerse themselves. They can see the characters. They feel like it's real. And for however long it takes them to read that novel, they can get away from the daily grind for a little while they read that. I think that's the job of the fiction writer, is to help people kind of step away from real life for a little bit. So yeah, I'm excited about being able to put that out there and see something that like I said, I created this out of the ether. There was nothing there when I started, and I made this story. I made it up. To me, that's exciting, because I think you're creating something lasting that people can look back. If you look at J.R.R. Tolkien, his legacy was these books, these fantastic books, and this world he created. There's so many people who follow that and are fans. And I don't think he ever expected that would happen. I certainly don't expect that would happen with my writing, but it would be awfully cool if it did. So, yeah, I just hope that I could be able to entertain people and maybe educate people. In the area of nonfiction, I'd love to do some history writing about World War II. It fascinates me, and the Vietnam War fascinates me. So yeah, I'd like to write in all different kinds of genres and just pursue whatever catches my eye at that time, because I have so many different interests. I could write about a lot of different things.
That's awesome. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, you mentioned some great authors, and then also, I guess, I was thinking Stephen Pressfield a little bit, maybe just because I read all his books, but his history ones I get a huge kick out of.
Yeah.
And I know you are obviously capable of writing that, because your article for the magazine previously known as The Creative Entrepreneur, now Bootstrapped, was about the revolution and kind of principles learned from it. Would you ever have interest in writing more content like that, in book form, long form, or just otherwise?
Yeah, I really would. I think that there's so much to be learned from history, and especially like you say, in the Revolutionary War, the things that the people in the colonies the British colonies, the things that they put on the line for what they believed in. They believed strongly that they were being mistreated by the British Crown, and they believed it strongly enough that they were willing to risk everything, including their lives, including their families, including all of their material wealth. They risked being ostracized by their neighbors. They risked everything for what they believed, and I think that there's a great deal of value to be learned from looking at people who come up against something like that and how they choose to respond. And I think in the revolution, obviously this country isn't perfect. We've made some huge mistakes, but there are also those really gold moments where the country did the right thing for the right reasons. And I think that's the value of history, is being able to look back and say, here's this adversity that these people found themselves in. How did they respond? Because I think it's instructive for how we live our daily lives now, and that's the importance of history writing. Is it puts something out there and gives you an example of, here's a situation and here's what happened. And then you can kind of look at it and go, yeah, they really responded well, or they really blew it, and let's learn from that. So
awesome. Well, Mike, we're coming up to the line here, and I would have so many more questions to ask you in terms of writing and your form of it and how progress is coming. But I got to wrap up. So the last thing I want to do is kind of give you the floor and ask you, where can people reach out to find your book, maybe your blog, but just reach out and connect with you.
Yeah, my website is mpmcdougall.com. It's all one word, so it's the letters MP and then MacDougall.com. And that's my website, my blog are there. There's information on my upcoming projects. I just, the blog is basically I just kind of riff on whatever topic I want to write on that day. But the books are coming, and they're going to be released on October 30th. The first book will be released, and that's Jet Screamer. I'm gonna, if you get on my blog and you want to follow me, that'd be awesome, and I'll let everybody know when. I'll give you a heads up when those things are being released, and obviously when the second issue in the trilogy comes out next year too, then you'll get notifications for that. So yeah, they can just get me there. If they want to email me, it's just mp@mpmcdougall.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mike. It was great having you on the show. It was always a pleasure, and I can't wait to get a hold of your book.
Appreciate it, Tom. Thanks for the opportunity, and I really appreciate all the hard work you're doing. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
And that wraps up another broadcast of In the Trenches. If you're interested in checking out the show notes, just head over to tomworkus.com/podcast to see our latest episodes. Also, I just wanted to give a quick update to fans and listeners of In the Trenches, and specifically what I'm working on right now. For the past 2 years, I've been publishing books, my own and others, through Insurgent Publishing, my boutique publishing company. In the past 6 months alone, I've helped 4 individual authors launch their books to bestseller on Amazon, including Dan Norris's The 7-Day Startup and David Nihill's Do You Talk Funny, among others. And both of those books are still top of the charts months after launch. I've learned 2 important things from all this. Number 1, that people still read books. And believe it or not, they're willing to pay for the good ones. And number 2, the $60 billion book industry is only getting bigger, and the barrier to entry is only getting lower, which means access to this market has never been closer to the average writer, blogger, or author. It is literally within the grasp of anyone who wants it. But you need to know how to approach it the right way, with patience, with a strategy, and with the right implementation and execution. That's why I've been able to launch so many bestsellers, many that are still top of the charts, because we brought great books to the people who wanted and would pay for them. No slimy sales tactics, just honest, powerful marketing. Now, I want to show other authors and publishers how to do the same. 4 months ago, I launched the pre-beta to a new super secret platform called Publishers Empire. In that time, I've helped a dozen authors and publishers start to bring their ideas to life. And with their help and feedback, we've quickly developed what is, in my opinion, the best, most comprehensive publishing training platform in the world. And now I'm getting ready to open the doors up to a few more students. So if you're interested in being part of a tight-knit family of publishers who help and support one another through their writing and publishing projects, if you want access to over 100 HT training videos to take you through the writing and publishing process, if you want access to proven copy and paste book marketing and sales copy, stuff that we've used to launch bestsellers, and if you'd like professional book covers and templates you could plug your own work into and look like a pro in minutes, and if you'd like all of that while getting the chance to be mentored by me, check out publishersempire.com and sign up to be notified when we launch. That's www.publishersempire.com. I hope to see you there. As always, this is Tom Morkis. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Thank you for listening to In the Trenches. Your creative work doesn't stop here. Join the resistance, the small but growing army of entrepreneurs and artists putting a dent in the world at www.tommorkis.com. Never fight alone. Join the resistance.